Phil, you buying that thing about the atmosphere being better now than it was when they were in their... Because I remember that was like terraces and standing and the surging crowd.
Yeah. My dad is a Leeds fan and he brought my mum to a Liverpool-Leeds game at Anfield.
Romantic.
And they were on the Cop.
Right.
And...
Did he propose?
Liverpool won that day? No, he didn't. And when the goals went in, he's frightening, he said.
Yeah.
I think he reevaluated after that, saying probably not the best place to bring my wife or my girlfriend at the time. So
did it mean more back then as it does now?
I can understand what Graham Souness is saying, but actually the atmosphere I thought was quite dead last night. It's almost as if Liverpool fans turned up and expected Liverpool to do what they've been doing all season. But there was times when the atmosphere went up a level. But you think back to the games like the Barcelona game last season. So
what if they're going to have a blip? What if this is the start of a blip?
Well, I've been saying this all season that there's going to be a spell, and December was when I kind of pinpointed just the schedule, and it just shows how quickly things could turn. Where you had Fabinho limping around, you knew he was coming off. Then Virgil van Dijk goes up for that ball with Dries Mertens, comes down, Napoli score, Van Dijk's on the ground, and you're thinking this could be a huge blow. Obviously, Van Dijk gets back up. We don't know the full extent of Fabinho's ankle injury, but the fact that it's an ankle injury, so things can change so quickly. Look how City are doing without Laporte, not very well. And there's so long to go in the season. Like, if Liverpool, they're 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League. If they were 8 points clear at the end of December, then they're in pole position to win the league. But I'd be surprised if they were 8 points clear at the end of December. Even though City have to play a few tough games, including Leicester. Leicester have to play Liverpool as well on the 26th. But it just shows how quickly things can turn. And even he tried to, I think he got it wrong last night. I think he should have gone all chips in, get the win, and then you can rest players in 2 weeks' time against Salzburg, where he left Alexander-Arnold out. Joe Gomez is not as comfortable playing as a right back, and shortly before he was taken off, you saw that he skewed a cross over the bar and just got into positions where his delivery wasn't good enough. And Napoli set up to basically say to Liverpool, cross, because we've got Koulibaly and Manolas who are just going to clean everything up. And I lost count of the amount of times that Merritt, the goalkeeper, came out and claimed crosses. It was quite comfortable for them in that sense.
So is the power rankings of Liverpool right backs at the moment: number 1, Trent Alexander-Arnold; number 2, Jordan Henderson; and number 3, Joe Gomez?
James Milner.
James Milner, number 2.
I think he missed a trick. If you want to take Alexander-Arnold out of the team, because he had a few hairy moments on Saturday against Crystal Palace, and you know he's still very young.
Yeah, but why are you taking him out of the team for that? Are you not going to say, let's have the video session and learn from that, and go out and do what we've just taught you?
Yeah, and look, these players have been monitored. Obviously, we don't know if there's players in the red or what the case is there. But I still think that you could play someone like James Milner as a right back and then play Oxlade-Chamberlain in that midfield 3, and Milner, because Liverpool's biggest attacking threats are their fullbacks, just the way they play. So if you have Milner and Robertson, that's fine. But Gomez just didn't look comfortable, and Gomez has fallen in the pecking order even in central defence, which is meant to be his best position, because some people question Klopp putting Lovren in ahead of Gomez, but Lovren was very good last night. Obviously he scored. People will question his role in the Mertens goal. I actually thought Van Dijk could have done a lot better. Dries Mertens is...
We're not saying, though, that Trent Alexander-Arnold has become a must-start player in all the big games to the point where Liverpool won't win without him. Surely they have been great at winning when players have been missing. I mean, clearly he's one of their best players. He's going to be a sensational player for the rest of his career. He's going to be an all-time great if he continues at the pace he's at. But he's the right back. Surely they've got enough depth to be able to still win a home game in the Champions League without him.
Yeah, I think absolutely, but I just don't think with Joe Gomez, because Joe Gomez looks short in confidence, and he just got himself into positions where at times he didn't want to pull the trigger. He didn't want to put that cross in, where one of the first things Alexander-Arnold does is puts in an early cross. And as good as Koulibaly and Manolas were in the air, if you put in an early ball on them and you turn them, then they're uncomfortable. Whereas Liverpool's crosses were predictable at times, it was slow, And one thing that Alexander-Arnold gives you as well is that ability to switch play very quickly, where Gomez doesn't possess that.
Yeah.
We need a few more. I'd love to see Carlo Ancelotti come to the Premier League. I'd love to just see him take that template that Napoli do and kind of install it in the Premier League. I think Liverpool would encounter a lot more problems domestically. I think basically we need more, maybe like an Antonio Conte, Jurgen Klopp matchup, Ancelotti, Klopp matchup. They're the ones that really test Klopp. This is obviously, I don't want to like overstate things, but given Liverpool's success in recent seasons, Napoli have been as close to the kryptonite that they've had, and they've caused them huge amounts of trouble. And like I think that kind of comes down to what it was yesterday. It's not just the absence of Trent Alexander-Arnold or being fully fit or whatever it may be at right back. It's actually what Napoli managed to do in terms of shutting them down. You can look at all the statistics and say Liverpool were the better team. But yet again, what is it, 4 times in 2-3 seasons that they've played each other now? And each one of those times, Napoli seemed to come out of the game with a lot of credit.
Yeah, Napoli are the only team to beat Liverpool this season. I just think it was a frustrating night for Liverpool. You kind of expected, given what was at stake, that they'd come out of the blocks quickly. They didn't. And little things just set them back where, you know, they wanted to get on with quick free kicks. The referee was, no, ball's moving, bring it back. And just every time the play stuttered, then it just meant more frustration for Klopp. Klopp got booked towards the end of the first half because he was just getting so annoyed with the referee pulling everything up. So that just wound the crowd up, and Liverpool just weren't on it. And like the Fabinho injury, then like Salah was quite poor. You know, he's only just come back from an ankle injury, just wasn't sharp. Mane was good towards the end of the first half. They had that spell about 10 minutes at the end of the first half where you could feel the return of the screw, but then half time came. But I just thought if they started well, then it was going to be not a routine win, but certainly a game that they'd win. But they were slow out of the blocks. Napoli got the goal, and then Napoli just had to sit in.
How concerning is it that Salah's form is where it is at the minute?
I think I could put that down to the fact that he's probably been nursing that ankle injury that he picked up against Leicester many weeks ago, and unfortunately they need him in the team. So I don't know how much of a rest he's going to get. And this, again, that's why I just think it was so important.
Do they need him in the team if he's not playing at that level, though? Like, well, you know, can you not get through some of these games at the moment?
They could get through certain games. I think last night was a game where they needed him. They didn't obviously use him against Palace. Incidentally, he was all stripped and ready to come on before Firmino scored, and then when Firmino scored, he sat back down. But they tried Oxlade-Chamberlain on the right-hand side against Palace. At one stage, he played on the left, and Mane moved out onto the right. I don't like that. Mane played out on the right for a stage at Old Trafford, the only Premier League game where they've dropped points, and Origi played on the left. And
why didn't they try Origi last night, or Shaqiri?
Well, Shaqiri's only coming back. He's not going to be match fit. I wasn't surprised that Origi certainly might have been a shout, but unfortunately when Fabinho went off, that took away one of his attacking substitutions, a bit like what happened to Mick McCarthy last week, where you have 3 substitutions, you're thinking they're all going to be attacking substitutions in the second half if we need them, but with Fabinho going off, then Klopp is down 1, and he obviously decided he wanted to bring on Alexander-Arnold, and he brought on Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yeah.
So, no, like I still think they'll get the result they need in Salzburg. I know Salzburg caused them huge problems in the game at Anfield, but Salzburg have to win. They have to come out, and that'll suit Liverpool. It won't be a case of Salzburg sitting back. So
Salzburg might do what Ireland did against Denmark and kind of sit back and hope that they can nick it. Yeah, well, if they do that, then Liverpool can control the game. So either way, you know, Liverpool are still on the driving seat. You just thought that they could get the job done last night, make things so much more straightforward given what's coming up in December. How concerned are you? What's your level of concern reaching?
But I'd always be concerned, and I think...
But that's just your default position, like on top of your normal default concern.
No, I think you have to be, though, because
you haven't won the league in so long.
Absolutely. And if anyone thought, like, after 10 games, or even after the Man City game, that it's going to be a stroll.
That was going to be a stroll. Not. Come on, that was it. It's all set up for a stroll, Phil. Come on.
Not at all.
City are out of it. It's Leicester City.
Yeah, that's it. I'd be worried about it. Brendan Rodgers standing over the bloody corpse.
Thing is, even
do not let this slip.
But even looking at this weekend and the setup, City are on first. So City play at 12:30 against Newcastle. So say they win that, they're only 6 behind Liverpool. Liverpool are actually playing Brighton, which is probably a good game for
Perfect.
the new Brighton 2.0, where Graham Potter likes to play football. So that
Signed
might,
up to like 2050.
yeah, that might actually suit Liverpool, because I watched them against United a few weeks ago, and they were perfect opponents for United at Old Trafford. So it's not a bad one. But then they've the Merseyside derby next week.
That's almost like exactly a year on from the Pickford, Hames and Origi goal that sent Liverpool on that incredible run last season.
Yeah, and spiralled Everton into a dip where
Which they haven't recovered from.
They haven't really recovered from. They finished the season well, but Marco Silva, like, you don't. I mentioned the Merseyside derby next week. You don't even know if he's going to be in charge for that game.
David Moyes comes back, starts Liverpool's slide and their decline towards a bottle job in the Premier League. What a story that would be.
Well, if Moyes
slips on in to lift the big ears in the Premier League trophy.
So there's a lot of twists and turns, but there'd be a few concerns that Liverpool still haven't kept a clean sheet at Anfield this season. That's a worry. And it was a brilliant finish, but this is what they did last season. They just kept clean sheets, and they didn't play well all the time.
Fabinho's not really, a good defensive midfielder.
Well, we're going to find out now if Kenny Cunningham's theory is true, because Fabinho didn't look great.
It's just a small observation from the midweek Champions League action. Never seen so many brilliant tight angle finishes in 1 week. We obviously had Mertens, we obviously had Valencia's goal against Chelsea last night, which went over Kepa's head, Dybala's goal on Tuesday night. All outrageous goals that if you manage to pull it off in FIFA, you'd be like, how do you do that? What button do you press?
Yeah.
So it's
the Mertens goal was
very
so
important
good.
thing to point out.
Actually, Michael Owen did a really good bit of analysis on that goal at half-time, just talking about how most strikers would have hit that about 2 seconds earlier. Mertens took his time. The finish was obviously from a more acute angle, but because he had slowed down, it gave him a better chance to strike it perfectly. But then I was looking at the angle. It's honestly, you could have taken a tyre and put it in the corner and said, that's the only place you can fit it through, and he did it. And even looking at it, I wondered, did Alisson kind of bank too much on his near post where...
In fairness, though, if you get beaten like that,
Yeah,
it's the right thing to do, because a million times out of 1,000,001, you're going to save those.
Yeah,
or
that was incredible.
They'll be intimidated.
But look,
Chelsea, very briefly, Owen says they're the new Arsenal. You buying this?
Yeah, they just, again, I think they are brilliant to watch. Like, that game could have honestly ended 5-5 all, 6 all. Lampard said that himself after. But, they're 2-1 up, and you just knew that Valencia were going to get more chances. As good as N'Golo Kante is in an advanced role, I still just think that for those kind of games, they need that protection, because Jorginho is great when you're controlling a game and he can conduct the orchestra, but at the base of a midfield, he's not strong enough. And that's where they conceded against City at the weekend. And at times last night, it was the same, where they leave themselves exposed.
Feels very reminiscent of Arsenal fans saying, never replace Vieira. Fabregas is great and all, never replace Vieira.
Well, they have the player, just move him back. But it's funny that you know why he's playing there, and Sarri did the same last season. But
Why?
well, because he's so good at getting the ball back. If he recovers the ball in a more advanced area, then it's quids in. You're in on goal.
It's a little bit like I'm looking at my analytics here and I'm seeing this pattern. Oh, if I could just move that pattern there. It's like, what? That pattern exists because of the way that other teams play, and it's part of a delicate ecosystem as opposed to living in a vacuum.
No, and you're wondering if you're playing percentages. The case would probably suggest that you'd probably be better off playing them in a deeper role.
I get that, but what happened to controlling games and you being the aggressor? Like, I see what they're trying to do, and I understand exactly that they would make that case. Well, this is us trying to be the aggressor, but
Can Kante do better in his current role? Is the like without the ball?
it's been a long time now, hasn't it?
Like there has to be some question marks on N'Golo Kante himself, rather than where the manager is playing him. The way I saw it yesterday was like it was just a completely invisible midfield at times. Granted, it was on both sides. They just, like as I was saying at the top of the show, there was one ball clear by Christensen right along the grass, complete daisy cutter, and it makes its way right the way through into the opposition centre half, straight through the midfield. The midfield didn't exist at times last night. It doesn't matter where you're positioned in the midfield, you should surely be able to affect play at some place. I completely accept that Kante is better in a deeper role, but he should be better without the ball in an advanced role.
But his best play is without the ball. And obviously, if he is protecting the midfield, so when you think of the Leicester team that won, basically it was a 4-4-2, him and Danny Drinkwater, and he was like having an extra midfielder because he covered so much ground, and they sat in. But if the game gets stretched and he's obviously further forward, and at times he was up as a right winger against City. You know, he was even more advanced than Tammy Abraham. And that's great if you're trying to press, but if then someone plays through your press, it's not much good having your best tackler so far up in the midfield.
No, yeah, you got to be able to manage that. And look, maybe as they work it out, it's going to be interesting to watch. Phil, good stuff. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Now, Damien Delaney had some interesting comments last night.